So I was talking about the origin. Okay, so it is having the external origin from the right and left, especially from the back of G5 process. The coastal attachment to the lower sixth rib, okay, on the inner surface of the cartilages, and the vertebral part is the lumbar part, that is crura and the arcuate ligament. So there is the right crus and the left crus. Okay, so right crus you can see it is longer than the left crus. The right crus is covering from L1 to L3 vertebra, and the left crus covering the first and the second lumbar vertebra only. And between these two crura, there is the arcuate ligament known as the median arcuate ligament. Then we see, and also the medial and the lateral arcuate ligament. If I will show you by the ligament. This is the median arcuate ligament, medial arcuate ligament. This is lateral arcuate ligament. Okay. Got it? Okay. Then we see the insertion. So central tendon, which is present below the pericardium, at the base of the pericardium. So it is having the shape of the leaflet, three leaflet. So one projection is anteriorly, and there are two projections posterolaterally. The anterior leaflet is triangular in shape, and apex is toward the sternal fibers. It is the apex having the um, insertion of the sternal fibers, and from the side it is getting the fibers from anterior costal fibers. The posterior leaflet, which are tongue shaped. Okay, so right one is the short and thicker as compared to the left one. Then it is having the laterally. From the laterally, the posterior costal fibers are getting inserted, and at the apex of this posterior leaflet and on the medial margin, getting the fibers from the crura and the arcuate ligament. Got it? Now the surfaces. So diaphragm are having the superior surface facing to the thoracic cavity, having the dome, and these domes are also known as the cupola on either side. So right one is higher than the left hemidiaphragm due to the presence of the larger organ, that is liver, on the right side. Okay, and it is covered by the superior surface covered by the endothelial fascia, endothoracic fascia, and about that it is related to the pleural cavity, the parietal pleura obviously, and the lung covered by the visceral pleura, descending in front and behind and on the lateral side. Okay, so giving the costodiaphragmatic recess. So this diaphragm is rising during the expiration, and during the contraction when it goes downward, it leads to the inspiration. And in the supine position, it is highest in level due to the pressure from the abdominal organ falling on the diaphragm, and lowest in the sitting position, and in intermediate position it is in the standing. In the standing position it is intermediate. So you can see this dissected part of the thorax from the right and the left side. Lungs are removed. So you can see on the left side there is the right hemidiaphragm, and toward the left side of the diagram there is the left hemidiaphragm. So you can see the mediastinal structure here. Okay, so by the side of the heart, you can see right and the left phrenic nerve in the diagram. Fine. So phrenic nerve, and the along with that phrenic nerve there is the pericardiophrenik vessel. The inferior surface, which is the abdominal surface, which is covered by the diaphragmatic fascia plus parietal peritoneum. Okay, so some part of the parietal peritoneum and some parts are the not covered by peritoneum. That is known as the bare areas. So we can see that on the right side, it is related to the right lobe of the liver, right kidney, and right suprarenal gland on the left side related to the left lobe, stomach, spleen, left kidney, and left suprarenal gland. Now we'll see the major openings and the minor openings on the diaphragm. So major openings are there, the aortic, esophageal, and the opening for the inferior vena cava. So you can see the inferior vena cava at this position, the highest position, that is at the level of the eighth lumbar vertebra. So it is transmitting the inferior vena cava from abdomen to the thoracic cavity, and it will drain the blood into the right atrium. Then just below and left side, you can see the esophageal opening denoted by the alphabet O. So it is transmitting the thoracic part of the esophagus to the abdominal cavity. Okay, along with that, it is also carrying the right and the left or anterior or ventral and the dorsal trunk of the vagus nerve. Okay, and along with that, the blood supply from the abdomen to the esophageal branches of the left uh, gastric artery entering into the thoracic cavity through this opening. Okay, then aortic opening. So below that, and the esophageal opening is present at the level of the 10th lumbar vertebra. Okay, and below that esophageal opening, you can see the uh, area demarcated by the denoted by alphabet A. That is the aortic opening or aortic hiatus. Okay, because it is not a circular opening like the other two, but it is a gap present posterior to the median arcuate ligament. Okay, and it is present at the level of the 12th thoracic vertebra. So it is transmitting the aorta from thoracic aorta to the abdominal aorta, and it is accompanied by the thoracic duct also there. Okay, and the sympathetic chain of the sympathetic trunk on the either side, fine, and the azygous vein also. Azygous and the hemizygous vein are going from here, the aortic hiatus. So you can see the structure and the minor openings now. The minor openings are having the, uh, you can see on the anterior part, the superior epigastric artery and the vein. Okay, so that space is known as the sternocostal triangle of the Larry between the xiphoid process and the seventh costal cartilage. Fine, so you can see the superior epigastric vessel. So from above downward, you can see that is from anterior to posterior. Then there is the musculophrenic artery, that is the seventh intercostal nerve. Okay, and the vein between the seventh and the eighth rib. Then we come to the 8 to 11 in the intercostal nerve and the vessel, that is interval between the slips of the 8th and the 12th rib, and the subcostal nerve and the vessel behind the lateral arcuate ligament. So you can see the lateral arcuate ligament, there are the three structures, artery, vein, and the nerve, that is the subcostal vessels and the nerve. And the sympathetic trunk is passing through the side of the middle arcuate ligament. Okay, and this branch you can see they are transmitting through the crus of the diaphragm. The azygous vein and the thoracic duct and the aorta passing through the aortic hiatus. Okay. And the rest structure you can see passing through the opening for the inferior vena cava and the opening for the esophagus. You can see all the structure passing through this. Now, how does it act? So this is the principal muscle of the inspiration. It acts in the first phase of the inspiration, which help the lowering down the central tendon and increasing the vertical dimension of the thoracic cavity. Okay. So with anterior abdominal muscle, it also helps in the micturition, defecation, perforation, and during the vomiting also. And sneezing and coughing also helped by the sudden burst of the diaphragm. How is it developed? So central tendon is developed from the septum transversorium. So and the large peripheral part is derived from the mesodermal cells of the body wall, and the small peripheral part are derived from the pleuroperitoneal membrane. Okay, and the crust are derived from the dorsal mesentery of the esophagus. So the septum transversorium, which is giving rise to the central tendon, is very important structure because it is first developed at the level of the neck in the cervical region. But during the folding and all this happening during the embryo development, the septum transversum come between the thoracic and the abdominal cavity, and it remains there. But it now supply from the cervical region, that is cervical spinal nerve 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so phrenic nerve is having the nerve root of the C4, 3, 4, 5, the cervical nerve, spinal nerve, 3, 3rd, 4th, and the 5th cervical spinal nerve. Okay, therefore it has to travel. The phrenic nerve has travel from the cervical region to the along with the thoracic cavity to the abdominal cavity due to the original location of or the primitive location of the central tendon. Okay, so you can see the innervation of this C345. So these are the motor, and the proprioceptive parts are for the peripheral part, which are reaching their proprioceptive from the lower intercostal nerve. Blood supply is from the superior and the inferior phrenic artery. Okay, so superior is coming from the thoracic and the inferior is coming from the abdominal aorta. And the pericardiophrenic vessel, which is running along the phrenic nerve. Okay, which is the branch of the uh, internal thoracic artery, the musculophrenic artery, and the supraepigastric artery, which are the terminal branches of the internal thoracic artery, and the lower 5 intercostal and the subcostal artery. The vein is draining into the brachiocephalic vein through the azygous system. Okay, and runs into the IVC, inferior vena cava directly. And also the inferior phrenic vein is draining into the left suprarenal vein. So we'll see the applied aspect of the diaphragm, the diaphragmatic hernia. So it may be congenital or acquired. So in the congenital, it is posterolateral, where the foramen is known as the foramen of Bogdale, between the 11th and the 12th ribs, and common on the left side. Okay, and there is no sac because the no peritoneal involvement is there, so no sac is formed. And the postnatal, there is a severe respiratory distress is present. So immediate or emergency surgical removal is required. And the correction of this hernia is required. The posterior hernia directly through the aortic or esophageal opening. Okay, so that is known as the hiatal hernia. And the retrosternal, that is on the anterior aspect. Foramen of Morgagni or space of Larry, we already seen. So right side is more common for the hernia through the space of Larry. That is your superior epigastric artery, and the veins are passing through that. So hernia through that is asymptomatic, and most common viscera involved is the transverse colon and central hernia. So central hernia, it can occur through the more common is the left dome, okay, or left hemidiaphragm. Eventration. What is the eventration? It is the when the diaphragm is very thin and aponeurotic as compared to the more fibers, as compared to the collagen fiber, as compared to the muscle. So it bulges in the thorax, taking into it the abdominal viscera. And the congenital hiatus hernia is the defective normal openings. Okay, apart from the normal opening, there is the defective normal opening, that is dilated opening, and most common involved is the esophageal hiatus. Okay, and it can also be acquired. So we can see the various location for this type of the hernia. From anterior to posterior, you can see the opening between the sternal and the costal end, that is the space of the Lari or foramen of Purgani. Okay, posterior side, you can see on the left side the larger opening in the black color due to the absence of the pleuroperitoneal membrane. Okay, aortic hiatus and the esophageal opening, you can see the hernia can occur through that. Then acquired hernia. So acquired hernia are mainly these type, the sliding hiatus hernia. Sliding means the esophagus is short, therefore it takes along with it the upper part of the stomach into the thoracic cavity through the esophageal hiatus in the posterior mediastinum. Rolling means rolling hernia is also known as the paraesophageal hernia because esophagus is normal in shape but normal in size, but the part of the stomach entering into by the side of the esophagus into the posterior mediastinum. Okay, so esophageal reflux is not taking place there. Esophageal reflux means the regurgitation of the gastric content from stomach to the esophagus back. And ruptured diaphragm and traumatic hernia can occur due to the bullet injury or severe crush injury. Okay, you can see this barium mill radiography in the most portion of this slide. Okay, so this is the example of the sliding hernia. So you can see the esophagus ending in the narrow portion known as the esophageal sphincter, and the stomach is starting here, and you can see the level of the diaphragm. I will just show by the laser pointer. So you can see this is the esophagus ending here. It is shorter in length, and esophageal the cardiac end. Esophageal sphincter is there, lower esophageal sphincter. Then stomach part, that is fundus is going. So you can see the diaphragm is here, the level of the diaphragm, and this is the level of the esophageal hiatus. So you can see how the short esophagus is pulling the stomach inside the thoracic cavity. Okay. The paralysis. If one hemidiaphragm is paralyzed, the other one is normal, then it can lead to the paradoxical movement. Means whenever there will be the contraction of the normal side, then it will lead to the increased abdominal pressure, which will it will give the elevation of the paralyzed part. Okay, so therefore it is known as the paradoxical movement. And yes, the pain or due to the irritation, due to the inflammation of the peritoneum or the pleura on the diaphragm can be referred to the shoulder tip. Okay, because shoulder tip are innervated by the same nerve supply 3, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so this was about the diaphragm.